everybody, welcome to our channel, J&J House Call. My name is Dr. John Lucio. I practice integrative medicine and pain management in Jefferson City, Missouri. And this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Sue. I practice conventional gynecology and integrative medicine. We're so happy to be back with you for a summary of all the diets that Dr. Lucio has been covering for the last, we've done it about 3 weeks or
3 or 4 weeks. Yep.
So this is going to be a good topic. And if you haven't subscribed, why haven't you? Please do so, and always hit that notification bell so you know when our next video has been uploaded. We upload 2 videos a week, all about integrative medicine topics to keep you healthy and out of the doctor's office.
So today I'm just going to wrap up what we've been talking about for the last month. I know I didn't include every single diet, but we try to touch on the ones that are the most common and seem to incorporate a lot of the same concepts.
We covered so many. We covered, and I made a list so I didn't forget, we covered the Keto Diet, Atkins Diet, Raw Diet, Paleo Diet, Vegetarian Diet, Vegan Diet, Dash Diet, Mind Diet, and Mediterranean Diet. And we're always talking the Anti-Inflammatory Diet. Today we're going to summarize everything all into one place, just to kind of talk about the differences and the benefits and what's the most effective for weight loss, which is what a lot of people do all these diets for.
Yep. Over the past several weeks, we've been talking about different types of diets, and of course we didn't include every single one because it's just not enough time. But we did try to cover the ones that are probably the most common and have some of the main concepts that we're trying to educate you guys on. So initially we did talk about the keto diet, and we talked about how it induces a state of ketosis, and you do eat a lot of animal fat and protein. And Atkins diet was very similar in its initial stages, but then as time went on, you're able to eat more different types of plants and different types of carbohydrates as time went on. So it seemed to be a little bit more tolerable. Now they both can lose weight, and initially, and that was very important to some of you. And as you recall, with the keto diet, there's some evidence that it helps with migraines. In my practice, I do recommend the keto diet initially. I don't know if a lot of my patients can maintain it, but if they have migraines, this seems to help a lot, and for some odd reason seems to be helping a lot with a lot of patients with fibromyalgia. Now the other diet we talked about is a paleo diet. Again, it's based on what did we eat 2.6 million years ago during the Paleolithic era when we were hunter-gatherers, and it does include a lot of animal fat and certain types of plants and nuts. It does not include any type of grains. It is also another low-carb diet. Now then we went on to discuss vegan and vegetarian diets. Now they are different. There are different versions of them. Vegans eat no animal products at all, while vegetarians do eat plants, of course, but they do allow some products that are derived from animals, such as dairy and eggs. And within those groups, you have some that eat dairy and eggs, and some that eats some poultry and fish. But they base most of it on plant-based, almost entirely plant-based. And then, of course, we did talk about how that there are some nutritional deficiencies that can occur with it. Then we talked about the raw diet, which I use sometimes in a lot of our smoothies. We use some of the raw types of vegetables and fruits. Those have the logic behind those is that you do retain some of the nutrients that you would cook out of them. But you have to be careful. Some things you just can't eat raw. You have to make sure that they're cooked. One of the last diets we talked about was the DASH diet, which stands for the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Now it has a lot of very good evidence, and basically it's a low sodium, mostly plant-based, very low amount of meat, red meat, high in poultry and seafood, and fruits and vegetables, of course. And we talked about how that diet, along with the Mediterranean diet, actually studies showed that they had some components that were good for your brain, helped you slow down the decline in cognitive ability.
That's called the Mind Diet.
The Mind Diet, yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yep. And then I do want to talk about the Mediterranean diet again. We've talked about this in another video. Basically, it was based on the type of diet that was eaten by a group of people in the Mediterranean basin. They're mostly rural communities. Showed these individuals lived a long time. They had lower incidence of chronic diseases. What I find interesting about it is that the scientist in my brain starts to ask, well, was it accurately measured, and these people actually lived as long as that they said they did. And that's always been nagging in the back of my head whenever I read these studies. So good record keeping is very important. We have that here in the United States, but I don't think that's prevalent throughout the world. But I'm just going to take the evidence the way it stands, that it does show that these people do have healthier lives, they live longer, and so on. And the Mediterranean diet, some of the studies in the United States have shown that the Mediterranean diet is good for your heart. Now, I do need to mention the anti-inflammatory diet, and I use this a lot in my clinic, and I'll tell you what the difference is between the Mediterranean and anti-inflammatory. The anti-inflammatory diet basically is a diet that helps reduce the overall body inflammation. You've heard us talk about this in some of our other videos, and inflammation seems to be the root of almost all evil for chronic diseases. It takes some of the positive components of the Mediterranean diet and also combines some of the components of the Asian diet, which is very interesting because if you look at some of the good things that come out of the Asian diet, they're basically very similar to Mediterranean. It's plant-based, a lot of seafood. And so combine those two together, you come up with the anti-inflammatory diet, and this is what I talk to a lot of my patients with, because some patients just really don't like eating a whole lot of olive oil, which is mainstay in the Mediterranean diet. So I'm going to summarize kind of what we covered, and I do got to tell you that I do have a personal bias. I tend to be a moderate in terms of diets. I'm not an extreme on either side. I think we really should have a very balanced diet, mostly plant-based. We can't eat red meat. We can't eat poultry and fish, but in moderation, and make the plant-based products the majority of the dish. Now, but I do need to say that a lot of folks, weight loss is an important reason for starting a diet. So which ones are the best? Recent review in 2017, so it was about 3 years ago, they looked at the different diets. I got to tell you, if you take any diet and you restrict the calories, everybody's going to lose weight. So how do you take that factor out of it and look at a healthy diet, and is it sustainable over long term? So it's not just short-term weight loss, but long-term weight loss. And you take out the caloric restriction component out of it, the meal replacement, all the supplements that you see in a lot of these other diets, which ones really had kind of the best evidence to show that it worked. And the ones that were the best were Atkins diet, the DASH diet, the glycemic index diet, which basically takes almost all the fruits, vegetables, and meats, and so on, and assigns a score to them in terms of how they raise your blood sugar, and they try to find the ones that lower your blood sugar the best, and they base your diet on that. The Mediterranean diet, the Ornish diet, which basically is a low-fat, plant-based diet, which I find was very interesting. It also proposes using lifestyle changes as well. It's interesting, the Ornish diet sounds like a lot of the other diets that are out there. The physician who created it just put his name on it, and it seems to be very popular. The Paleo Diet and the Zone Diet, which basically uses a combination of the 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, and 30% fat, which are good fats. Carbohydrates are usually good carbohydrates, not the simple ones we have in baked goods and white wheat type products. So if you look at which is the ones, if you try to rank them, which ones gave the best short-term and long-term weight loss, supported by the evidence, Atkins seemed to be the most effective. This was followed by the Paleo Diet, then the Mediterranean diet, and then the Zone Diet. So those right now seem to be the order from the most effective to the least effective in terms of evidence. Now that may change in the next couple of years.
Most effective to do what?
Keep short-term and long-term weight loss.
Okay.
So if you're going to pick one, Atkins diet seems to be has the best evidence. Doesn't mean the others don't work, but right now this is where it is. Now, I do got to tell you, most diets are very effective in the short term because of basically on caloric restriction. Now they're finding that caloric restriction is not the best explanation for the effectiveness. A lot of these diets, it really has to do with how they limit carbohydrates and how much protein that they eat. All right, well that's it for today. I thank you all for joining us. I hope this helped you guys try to figure out the confusion regarding all these diets.
Next video, our midweek check-in, is going to be about how to get out of Corona funk. I made up that name because during the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of us have been stuck at home without a job, and it's very easy to slip into a Corona funk. It's just a funk. So how do we get ourselves out of it? It's just 4 easy ways to get out.
That's it for today. Thank you all for joining us. So long, everybody. Have a great week.